It's September 2nd, 1993, and I'm back in England, drawn here by the special railway events taking place on the Isle of Man in 1993. You'll see some of them in Part 4. Yes, it's London's Gatwick Airport again. I prefer it to Heathrow because of the great rail access to London. That date's wrong. Don't ask me why. It is September 2nd, 1993. Once again, it's on board the Gatwick Express for the 30-mile journey north to London. London's Victoria Station is our destination this morning, and since my Continental Airlines 747 arrived quite early in the morning, it's rush hour and the station is bustling with activity. In 1991, London Victoria Station was in the midst of a major refurbishment. Most of that construction work had been finished by 1993, so we'll take a little view of London Victoria Station. Rush hour also brings train after train loaded with workers into London, Victoria, and the other 9 or so British rail stations in London. Once all those folks arrive at London, Victoria, they've got to go somewhere. London, Victoria was once 2 separate stations of competing railway companies, the London, Brighton and South Coast, and the South Eastern and Chatham. The Grosvenor Hotel is next to the station and has an entrance right in the station concourse. We'll stay here for 1 night before heading on.
Smile.
Why? I don't feel in a smile mood. Not yet.
Our host, tour leader, and friend, Mr. Bob Bridger, head honcho of Rover Tours. Since I had the afternoon free, I found a Brit Rail timetable and did a bit of exploring by rail, ending up at Horsham. Now we're on board heading back towards London. This will give you an idea of some of the interior shots from the different types of electric multiple unit trains that run on the third rail electrified portions of British Rail, and specifically Network Southeast. Some second-class sections of the railway. Day 2, Friday the 3rd, and our group gathers for our journey to the west of England. Since we've left Paignton Station, we've been on the ex-Great Western Main Line towards Penzance. We'll stop short of there at the town of Newton Abbot.
He apparently slipped and fell off a deep. They done shop for it.
That's going to work, isn't it?
Newton Abbot is in the county of Devon. And has a nice, quaint little Great Western station. And across from the station, a very lovely park with the required flower gardens, still blooming quite nicely even in September. And what seems to be fairly common in the west of England, a lawn bowling green. Oh, and here's our friend Bob and one of our other tour members, Wallace Henderson, having a pie and a pint at the Railway Inn. Here comes a Class 158 DMU. The 170 some odd sets of these diesel multiple units were built from 1989 to 1992 by British Railway Engineering Limited in Derby. They have one Cummins or Perkins diesel per car. Newton Abbot is not always a stopping place for all the express trains. By 1993, the IC-125s rule the rails in the west of England. Something that's very rare in the west of England, a Class 47 locomotive-hauled train, probably from central England. Now we're taking a charter bus ride, a way to get our luggage down to our destination, and having a little tour of Dartmoor. We're here right now at Hay Tor, Tor meaning hill, probably one of the highest parts of Dartmoor. There's Hay Tor. And we have heather and some other type of flower that was quite common up there. As you can see, very few, if any, trees up on the moors. Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes' first show, show or play, was written at the Big House. Baskerville, by the way, was the name of the driver that drove him from the train station up to the house on the moors. Now we're heading downhill, down the big hill, to Widdicombe in the moor. It's famous in folklore and song for a group of gents who headed up over the moors for Widdicombe's annual fair on a grey mare. We had a very nice Devon cream tea here at the Green Cafe. And Widdicombe's Cathedral. Our hotel for the next 5 nights was the Livermead House in Torquay. Pronounced Torquay, but spelled Torquay. I don't know. The hotel was started as a guest house by the sea in 1820, and after several expansions reached its present size. Torquay looks on Torbay on the English Channel and likes to be known as the English Riviera. Besides the ocean, the Livermead House has a nice view of other scenic attractions. Torquay's Brit Rail Station, a typical branch line Great Western station. Very typical architecture. Today is Saturday, and Saturday is quite busy, in fact very busy on British Rail in Torquay. The schedule lists 61 scheduled stops, but less than half that on a Sunday. 2 Saturday-only Class 47 hauled trains, bringing holiday makers down to Paignton at the end of this branch. And finally, a Class 159 3-unit set. For a diesel multiple unit even includes first class, which we'll see in a moment. And this is our train for the short ride, one stop down to Paignton, approximately 10-minute ride. And here's a second class portion. Now we're down at Paignton. Paignton is a truly classic British seaside resort, including the required lawn bowling, there we go. They start 'em young down here. Of course, our real reason for being here had to be to ride the Paignton and Dartmouth steam railway. Our engine for the day, the famous Flying Scottsman, built for the London and North Eastern in 1923 at Doncaster Works, to a design by Sir Nigel Gresley. The engine has 80-inch drivers and weighs 97 tons, with 62 tons for the tender. The Flying Scottsman also toured the USA for 3 years, starting in 1969. It has just been restored to its British rail appearance when retired in 1963.
I'd like to welcome the passengers who have joined us here at Paignton. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologize. With the adventure commemorating the 20th anniversary of for sale, the Herald Express Special Edition Glorious Devon Steam.
The line was originally a 7-foot, 1/4 inch broad gauge branch of Brunel's Great Western Line. It opened to Kingswear from Paignton in 1864. British Rail sold the line to the Dart Valley Light Railway PLC in 1972. The Paignton and Dartmouth Steam Railway is 7 miles long, with 2 substantial grades and several viaducts, 1 tunnel, and here we are arriving at its terminus in Kingswear. Churston, which was the stop just previous to this, is the headquarters for all the works, locomotive repairs and so forth on the Paignton and Dartmouth. However, they do store a few locomotives here, and one of them will show up in a moment. One of their recently acquired diesels, a Class 50, also known as Hoovers. Exactly why I'm not sure, probably the way they sound. This one called the Superb. Kingswear has always been the terminus for this railway, in part because of this large estuary of the Dart River, which separates Kingswear from the town on the far side, which is Dartmouth. The only access to and from Dartmouth from Kingswear is by ferry boat. Either these rather quaint-looking automobile ferries or passenger ferries, which I will ride in a few minutes. Here we're on the passenger ferry on our way across to Dartmouth. Of course, Dartmouth gets its name because it is on the Dart River, and it is on the mouth of the Dart River. The Royal Naval College is also at Dartmouth, as well as many old buildings being on the sea. This is a very ancient town. Exactly how ancient I do not know, but many of the buildings do date from certainly Victorian times and probably a lot further back. Now it's time to head back across the mouth of the Dart River to Kingsware to catch our steam-powered train back to Paignton. The Flying Scotsman was on loan to the Paignton and Dartmouth in 1993. It had just been restored to its last British rail appearance, complete with double stack and smoke lifters. The Flying Scotsman was originally built as a Class A1 Pacific and updated in the 1940s, I believe, to its present Class A3. It is the only A3 still in existence. It is a 3-cylinder locomotive. Hence, sometimes when the drivers go around, it sounds like there's too many chuffs for revolution. Not so. Supposedly, this locomotive was designed in part after looking at Pennsylvania's famous K4 locomotive of the United States. The locomotive was brought to Churston not by rail, but by road on a lowboy trailer over the hills of Dartmoor. Here the train departs Churston on its way back to Paignton. As is almost universal on British Preserved railways, there are no turning facilities at either end of the line, so half the time the locomotives are running in reverse. Here the Flying Scotsman crosses the Hook Hills Viaduct. Sunday, September 5th. Very few trains run on Sunday in Devon, so used a charter bus today to visit the Buckfast Butterfly Farm and Dartmoor Otter Sanctuary. They do raise butterflies to sell here. The otters are not. They're just there to look at because they're pretty and help preserve them. Buckfast is kind of over the top of the moor from Torquay, where we're staying, of course. Here are the cute little otters. It's several different varieties, or is it species? I don't know. Probably varieties of otters here for us to view. In not exactly natural habitat, but nevertheless, the otters don't seem to mind. Our rail visit for today is to the South Devon Steam Railway. By now you're probably wondering if every preserved railway in England owns a Hunslet steam locomotive. Not really, but they are very unpopular due to the ease of maintenance, and they have a marvelously crisp exhaust. The South Devon Steam Railway began as the Buckfast-Lee, Totnes and South Devon Railway on May 1st, 1872. It was built to Great Western Railway broad gauge of 7 foot 1/4 inch and absorbed into God's Wonderful Railway in 1876. In one weekend in 1892, the Great Western Railway, including the South Devon, was converted to standard gauge and remains so today.
For the coal tipple and everything, they did a good job on it.
tie, which I presume they're going to put in later.
So something like that.
Yeah.
It's something that contributed to setting back the use of going along.
Yeah, I think this line's got a lot of character.
Originally, the line ran from the Great Western Main Line at Totnes to Ashburton, but in the late 1960s, a highway widening plan forced the newly formed Dart Valley Light Railway Limited to make its terminus the town of Buckfastleigh.
You know what I'm saying?
The line is currently 7 miles long and has been run by volunteers since 1991, when the commercial company felt it could no longer make a profit here and concentrated its efforts on the Paignton and Dartmouth. We also visited another local historical site, the Buckfast Abbey. The abbey is a living Benedictine monastery. It began as a Cistercian monastery in 1018 and lasted until King Henry VIII dissolved all monasteries in England in 1539. In 1907, a group of only 6 monks began to rebuild the abbey church, and the final capping stone was laid on July 24th, 1937, a truly remarkable feat by so few men. We also visited an automobile museum in Totnes. Small, but it did have some really nice stuff. I've tried to include little posters so that you can read a little bit about them. This obviously is a Talbot, at least that's what it said, and does still race in vintage racing over here in Europe. This is an Austin 7. Apparently a racing type one, or at least a little fancier than the standard Austin 7. And then my favorite mark as far as British cars go, the Jag. And this is a D-type racing Jag. Also nice collection of motorcycles. I always think these are cute. The Amphicar 1965. I especially like the running lights and the horns that one requires for flotation when one is flying through the water there at a sedate speed. Kind of like the U.S. ducks, only much smaller. Even is complete down to the latest inventions, the electric bilge pump. We have to have an electric bilge pump.
Somebody has to keep Harley in business, you know.
Here's some views of the River Dart, a little further upstream from Dartmouth. In fact, just about at the end of the tidal portion of the estuary. And this is the town of Totnes. I included a few shots in here to show that we do walk around occasionally, and also to show one of the people driving on the left-hand side, which does boggle my mind. I don't know why, but it does. Bob thought we needed a bit of culture and arranged for a tour of the privately owned and supposedly haunted Bodmin House. The Bodmin House dates back to the 9th century. It became well known as the residence of the de Bourse family, builders of the 13th century Totnes Castle, remains of which can be seen today. Parts of the house date from this period. John Giles, who was the richest man in Devon, created a vast two-door mansion in 1510. Upon the arrival of the Trist family in 1704, Nicholas Trist reduced the size of the Bodmin House by some 40% and added the well-known Queen Anne facade which is seen today. I understand that one of the owners decided he needed a coat of arms, so he went out and bought one. Not exactly a titled individual. The woodwork has been restored fairly well, realizing this is a privately owned house. This is not owned by any big governmental organization, and they run tours in order to maintain what is quite an expensive undertaking. This is the Grand Hall, which is decorated in the neoclassical Baroque style, for whatever the heck that means. However, it is quite nice looking. And once more, the Queen Anne facade. Well, now it's Monday, the 6th of September, and I've stopped at Exeter St. David's for a few videos of the train and the station. We actually were on our way to Paignton for another preserved railway journey. I got up a little bit early so that I can get up to Exeter St. David's and do a bit of video before I joined up with the group and we headed north to Paignton. Here's a couple of older DMUs arriving off one of the numerous branch lines that radiate from Exeter. This particular one is in a different color scheme. I'm not exactly certain why. And of course the required IC 125. There's an up train leaving and a down train arriving. We're now in Taunton and riding a double-deck bus up to Bishop Lynyard, I believe is the name of it, and the West Somerset Railway in the county of, what else? Somerset.
How does it come out when it's bumpy?
And there's our beaver bus, turning around to leave to take people back to the British rail station at Taunton. However, we're going to be riding the West Somerset Railway, the railway station to Minehead. This is the longest preserved railway in Britain, at about 20 miles, and Minehead is the far terminus on the Bristol Channel of the Atlantic Ocean. We'll use two locomotives today. First locomotive is number 48773, a Class 8F 280, built for the London, Midland and Scottish in 1940 by North British at Glasgow. Many of this class were sent overseas in World War II. This locomotive became Persian Railway 41.109. This is another example of cooperation between preserved railways, as the 48773 normally runs on the Severn Valley Railway. The West Somerset Railway is yet another Great Western line. No doubt that at least in the west of England, the GWR was great. The line opened in 1862. Regular passenger service runs from Bishop Lynyard to Minehead, but there is a connection to British Rail at the Bishop Lynyard end at North Fitzwarren, near Taunton. There are 10 stations along the line. The elevation changes from sea level at Minehead to 400 feet at Crowcombe Heathfield Station. Arrival of another train, obviously, behind Great Western 262 tank engine number 4160, built in Swindon in 1948. Has 68-inch drivers, weighs 78.5 tons, and has 200 pound per square inch boiler pressure. The station area at Minehead occasionally gets wet when there are very high tides. The West Somerset is used by locals for travel between stations as well as for us tourist types. A round trip on the line takes over 3 hours of steam sounds and marvelous scenery.
Have to do it again, Dick. Yeah.
Here we are back at Taunton after a bus ride back from Bishop's Lynyard. And the end of the 6th. Next day, the 7th of September, Tuesday, very rainy, very ucky weather. But we went out anyway. As promised in the last tape, we're back at Bodmin Parkway. To visit the Bodmin and Wenford Railway. This locomotive is known as a USA type tank locomotive, the number 30075, on loan from the Swanage Railway. Actually was built in Yugoslavia to a Vulcan Works design. The Vulcan Works is in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Has 54-inch drivers, 210 pounds per square inch boiler pressure, and weighs 46.5 tons. It's a rainy day on the Bodmin and Wenford. It was opened up in 1887 as a branch of, you guessed it, the Great Western Railway. It was always a standard gauge line, and regular passenger service in the preserved railway form began from this station in 1990. The 3.5-mile line up all the way to Bodmin General on an up to 1 in 40 or 2.5% grade. Next, we take a 4-unit DMU, 2 Class 158s and 2 150s, and here they arrive at Bodmin Parkway for a ride to the next station east, or up, literally actually, at Liskeard. Here we are at Liskeard. 2 Class 158s are arriving. This is also the top of the grade and the site of a large viaduct. Here's a Class 137 with a ballast train bound for the Loo branch. This is the branch that we'll be riding shortly. The branch winds its way down to the fishing village of Loo on the Atlantic Ocean. Now we're riding Upgrade from Lou in 1950s vintage 3-unit diesel multiple unit. This line is 8.5 miles long, with much of that taken up by a switchback and a large 270-degree loop on a steep grade to reach Liskeard. The line was originally and novelly named the Liskeard and Lou Railway. It was associated, of course, with the Great Western.
Unless you've got somebody already online.
Oh, I see.
It's the last evening in Livermead House in Torquay. So I thought it's about time to give you a little tour of the room, the ones you don't see in the guidebooks. Every British hotel room needs a teapot, tea, and of course digestive sweet meal biscuits. This contraption is a radio. Let's see. Get some noise here. There we go.
Thundery showers, good. Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea. East or southeast, 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8.
Ooh, lots of wind today. And rain too. There's our little TV set. The view out the window is, I would say would be considered less than stunning. That's the kitchen down there. Notice the plumbing. The middle two are from, well, they're stacks or else they belong to the drains, but the lower part is all from showers and so forth going down outside. Mild climate. No sheets, no screens, excuse me. Haven't really had much need for it. This is the, I guess what might pass for even for a desk, although it doesn't work very well as a desk. Nice big mirror, fluorescent bulby, and Kleenex. This is a British telephone book. Looks like ours. Oh, can't figure out what it is. And the bath. Remember when I said English hotels with character have plumbing with character? Actually, this does not have very much character at all. Notice the half shower screen. That was added later, definitely much later. And the shower at the end of the tub. Here is the commode. I'll have to let you hear this, the unbelievable toilet here. Character, it has character. And a typical English tub. Narrow but very long. including handles to get in and out of it. I've seen some without handles, but they all are notoriously long and narrow. Nice large closet. And a little chair, of course, with my Green Bay and Western hat on it and other stuff. Tonight is the last night in Torquay, as I mentioned. So it's time to get out the old suitcase and pack. Ooh, boy.
Yes, friends, there still is more to come. And in part 4, we'll visit Windsor, the Isle of Wight, and explore the rail scene on the Isle of Man in depth.